Do you remember how earlier I told you the story of when I was getting into this journey and I said that every fitness influencer I was watching would always give like different advice on how to train or the split or all this, and it was so confusing? Well, there was actually one thing that everyone agrees on. And that's a good sign, because if there's something which every kind of influencer agrees on when it comes to an industry like fitness, it means that that's like a universal truth of like what the best practice is. This was for the perfect macros for building muscle. First of all, what are macros? So macros are the breakdown of food, and there's three major macronutrients of each food. There's protein, carbs, and fat. Each one has a different impact on your body and also on your mind. And when it comes to our aesthetic body journey, they'll do different things for us. So protein we'll get from things like meat, and it will basically synthesize the muscle and help us make the muscle. Carbs, when we get things from like rice and fruit, will give us energy and the ability to push out a bigger PR. So, when we're squeezing out the rep. And then fats regulate our hormones, and that will basically help us to produce testosterone. That's a very widely simple explanation of each one. And, there's a whole biochemical processes and whatever, but that's like a simple explanation of each. So then the question is, okay, what's the perfect macronutrient split? Because once you can work this out for yourself, you'll know exactly what to eat to maximize the gains that you can get from the gym. And the perfect split is as follows. First of all, protein. Eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. There's research that shows a little bit less than that, a little bit more, whatever, but it's in general just 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That means that if you weigh 180 pounds, you would eat 180 grams of protein. If you weigh 150 pounds, you'd eat 150 grams of protein. Remember that this is actual protein that you're ingesting, not the weight of the meat. So for example, if we've got 100 grams of chicken breast, that doesn't mean that we're getting 100 grams of protein. The 100 grams of chicken breast actually gives us about 30 grams of protein. So it's important that we're not looking at the weight of the meat, but rather the actual protein content that you can use like apps and stuff to figure it out. Like how many grams of protein in 100 grams of chicken breast? About 30 grams. So that's the first macronutrient done. However much we weigh on the scale in pounds is how many grams of protein we want to eat. I weigh 190 pounds, so I will eat 190 grams of protein. Nice and simple, easy as fuck, rule done. The second macronutrient which we'll do is fat, and it's just like protein but half. So however much we weigh, we'll half that, and that's how many grams of fat that we'll aim for per day. So if you weigh 180 pounds, half that will be 90 grams. So your goal for the day will be 90 grams of fat. The final macronutrient is carbs, and we will basically just try and have as many carbs as possible to fill up our amount of calories based on our goal. So the fastest way, all of what I've said, basically, if you're already in the fitness niche, you would have understood everything and you probably would have agreed with what I've just said. If, for example, you don't really understand too much about fitness, that seems all vague, the easiest thing you can do, go onto your phone and download either one of these apps. MyFitnessPal, you can go search that name, MyFitnessPal, or MacroFactor. Go and get any of those apps, and basically the onboarding of the app, like when you first install it, you make a little profile. It'll walk you through everything you need to know. So it'll ask you questions like, oh, how old are you, male, female, what's your height, whatever. Then it'll get to a point where it'll ask you, what's your goal? And your goal should be to build muscle. That's the biggest priority that we have. Once you've done that, it will give you a calculation of how many calories you should eat based on that goal. And for most guys watching this, it will want you to gain weight, which makes sense because if you want to build muscle and you also need to basically train super hard, so you need to eat enough to kind of get the extra fuel to really push those extra reps for progressive overload, you'll want to be gaining weight. There's a very small amount of people watching this who should be trying to lose weight. Basically, when you're trying to lose weight on this journey, you're not really going to be making muscle. It's just the truth. When you're trying to lose weight and you're eating less calories and you have less energy, you're probably not going to be making any muscle, which means that you don't want to be in what's called a cutting phase. You don't want to be losing weight unless you absolutely have to because you're a fat motherfucker, or for the very, very small amount of people, you've already got a fuck ton of muscle already. For example, I can be on like a losing weight season right now, but I've trained for years, so I've already got a great amount of muscle. So when I lose weight, I'll look awesome. For you, if you've trained less than a few years, when you lose weight, you go on a cutting season, you don't have that much muscle anyway. So when you lose weight, when you cut the body fat, you'll go into this period where you're not really gaining muscle, but even if you lose weight, you lose some fat, you won't really look good anyway. So please just listen to my general recommendation for basically everyone who's watching this. Gain weight, bulk, don't cut. Only cut and only lose weight if you are fat. And people have got different ideas of what fat is, because if you don't have a six-pack, you'll think, oh, but I'm fat. But really, you're kind of still skinny. The way that to figure this out, by the way, is to go and look at your shadow. I know that's so weird, but go outside on a sunny day, stand so you can see your shadow. You know, your shadow is kind of going off from behind you. Look at your shadow, and that will fucking humble you, because you'll be thinking I'm this jacked guy, or, I'm fat, I need to lose weight. And you'll look at your shadow and be as skinny as fuck. Like for me, I have quite a slender frame, right? And there was times over the years where I always used to think oh no, I'm too fat, I don't have a six pack. And my shadow, if I actually stepped in the sunlight, it would have been this long-legged, skinny motherfucker. And it would have humbled me to think you're not actually fat, and you don't have any fucking muscle right now. Even though you've been training for 2 years, you still look like a little fucking stick figure in the shadow. The person who should cut weight and lose weight is the guy who his shadow literally looks fat. That's the guy who needs to cut weight. If you stood out in the sunlight, I guarantee your shadow would look skinny as fuck, and you'd be like, oh yeah, that little bit of fat I've got on my stomach, that's nothing, bro. I'm not fat. It's just, yeah, sure, I don't have lean abs right now. But guess what? Guess how you get those lean abs? Guess how you get the cap delt and whatever? By building muscle first, motherfucker. Your first priority should be gaining weight, building muscle, because you'll build more muscle when you gain weight. Your first priority is gaining weight. So I want you to go and get one of those apps on your phone right now, MyFitnessPal, MacroFactor. Make sure you put that your goal is to gain weight and your goal is to build muscle. It'll ask you at some point when you're making your account on that. Then it'll display a number of calories that you should eat to gain maybe about 2 kilograms, maybe max per month. So we want to gain about 4, that's probably even a bit high. We want to gain about 2 to 4 pounds a month, which is about 1 to 2 kilograms a month maximum. No more than that. Any more than that, and it's we're not going to be making more muscle, but we'll just be gaining more fat. So that's how we kind of create our macronutrient split. We follow the ratios that I mentioned to you before with protein and fat. So on the apps, when you set it up, it might give you a random fucking protein of 300 grams, or sometimes you get some stupid shit like that. Manually change your protein goal. What you're going to do is see how many calories it gives you. Let's say it says, okay, eat 2,700 calories a day to gain 2 pounds or 3 pounds a month. Okay, sick. You remember that, 2,700 calories to gain a couple of pounds a month. You go and set your protein so that it's 1 gram per pound of your body weight. You go and set your fat so it's 0.5 gram per pound of your body weight. It's half your body weight. Then you add as many carbs. Usually on these apps, there's a little scale thing that you can scroll to, whatever. You add as many carbs till it hits that goal of 2,700 calories, which might be 300 and something grams. That's what your macros are, and that's what your goal is to eat. It's of utmost importance that you listen to the lesson that I just gave you. You do not have enough muscle to cut right now. You don't deserve to cut and to be lean right now. One of the biggest mistakes that beginners make that I made was to try and enter a cutting period, a losing weight period, before you would even have muscle to really show. I went to the gym for maybe about a year, and I had some size, whatever. But every time I tried to cut, I would realize that I'm not even gonna look good. You have to understand, you're not I thought that if you cut when you didn't have much muscle, you'd look like the shredded guys, but just kind of smaller. But that's not the case. I promise you, if you don't have much muscle, you'll cut and you'll look like this weird, skinny, fat, really skinny, feeble, this fucking boyish kind of physique. You won't look like a jacked guy, with a V-taper, but just kind of smaller. You'll look like a fucking little skinny, I'm speaking to me, skinny little fucking brown kid, basically. So cutting when you haven't built much muscle is such a bad idea. You can only really have one when you start and you're not on steroids. You can either get bigger but you're kind of flabby, or you can cut but you just look a bit like shit and you don't really look big or muscular. And I way rather would tell you to bulk first. Do a big nice season of bulking, when you first start weightlifting. Let's say you weigh 150 pounds. Make your goal to weigh more maybe 180 pounds by the end of the year. So that's a big fucking bulk. You gain 30 pounds over a year straight. Not 6 months, but over a year. You hit 180 in December, for example. That's a really good amount, because at the end of that, when you're kind of puffy, you cut down to about 160 and you'll be lean, but you've also got like fucking new muscle mass where you feel like way bigger than you did at 150. So when we're bulking with this macronutrient split that I walked you through, bulking is like when we're gaining weight. It's of utmost importance that you don't eat bullshit. The problem that a lot of guys will go through is that for you to gain weight, you might need to eat 2.9 thousand calories, 3,000 calories, and it can be quite hard to eat that much, right? And so a lot of guys will take the easy way out, which is that they'll just eat garbage food to try and fill up the calories. And I really don't recommend doing that, because that, one of the worst things what will happen is you'll get a ton of fucking spots. You'll get spots over your back, over your face. You'll get this greasy fucking skin. You'll get like, bro, fucking, imagine like what your cum would taste like. Imagine if you ever fucking attract a girl and she's sucking your dick and your cum just fucking tastes horrible and everything. It's like, it just makes you such a goblin basically when you're eating like, you know, cancerous food and whatever, just to try and hit the macronutrients. I 100% tell you, eat natural foods. Eat basically like the whole foods, the one ingredient foods. If you want to make like some shakes or something, you know, with some milk and some oats and peanut butter and banana, that's like 800 calories. Okay, sure, go ahead, do that, have some liquid calories. But don't take some weird fucking mass gainer fucking like cancer shit. The only cancer allowance we have is for our pre-workout. That I understand, because it will literally make you more gains. But when it comes to you eating your calories, your macros, stick to the real foods, bro. Have some like chicken breast, have some sweet potato, have some steaks and stuff if you can afford it, and you know, have some rice, whatever, and have like a ton of like peanut butter, cashew butter. Those things are nice, bro. It's like it's real natural ingredients where your skin will look nice, you'll feel good, you'll have like, you know, like that sort of like nice stomach feeling when you're in the gym and you don't feel like you're about to shit yourself. There's people who'll just go to McDonald's and just get like 3 burgers or something and be like, oh, but it's calories, you know, you need calories. And then they just like, it's like their sweat just fucking stinks. It's like they're like human toilets. They just smell. They're like smelly, dirty kind of people. Eat clean. Even if you've got a high amount of calories to eat, eat clean. The only cancer we're allowed is our pre-workout and maybe like an energy drink or something. But don't eat fucking weird fucking dirty foods. Like when I was in university, there was this guy who was a bodybuilder. He was pretty big, and he was probably on steroids. Like he was a thick motherfucker. And he would always post on his like Snapchat story after he finished. He'd be like, oh, this is my post-workout meal. And it would be like 4 muffins, like the ones you could buy from like a supermarket. And I used to look up to that. I used to be like, oh, that's so cool. Like, you know, it's productive for him eating these muffins. And I saw him once in the gym, and his skin was fucking horrible. It was probably half because of the steroids, but also half just because of like the shit, you know, just processed garbage he was eating. Avoid that shit and just eat the healthy foods. When we're trying to gain weight, it can be hard to do that because then you'll need to eat a lot. But this is a big mindset you need to have. Eating is part of the discipline. You know how like we need to train hard and that's like a really painful thing. What's actually harder than training hard, training intensely, is actually eating right. Bulking, but also eating clean. So you're having rice and mince, and you're having eggs, and you're having meat and sweet potato and white rice or whatever, and you're having like peanut butter shakes, whatever. You're gonna feel full. Like you're gonna feel like full and sickly. That's the hard part of this training, is just eating enough for you to gain muscle. Get used to it. The way, the sort of mindset I had during this was I would eat in the same way that I would train. You know how when you train, the mindset was like, yeah, one more rep, you're listening to like aggressive music, you're zoned in. When you are a bodybuilder, which you are now, by the way, eating is part of the fucking job. So you should eat in the same way that you train, where you're thinking to yourself, come on, one more bite, I can do it, one more bite. Just the same way your friends are telling you, one more rep. You're doing the same thing, you've got hype music on, you're fully fucking focused, you're like, come on, one more bite, I can do this. Go on, one more. Like that's the way you should be eating. So remember these rules. We only want to gain about 1 to 2 kilograms per month maximum. Any more than that, and we won't really gain more muscle, we'll just gain more fat. So don't be stupid and think more calories is better. We only need a slight surplus, which is the equivalent of like this much fucking food, basically. We don't need to eat crazy amounts. Those apps will usually tell you the right amount to eat. For most guys watching this, it might still be about like 2.8 thousand calories or something around that. We only want to gain 1 to 2 kilograms per month. We want to eat healthy, clean foods, natural foods, no dirty shit, no cancerous shit. Because what happens when we eat like this dirty food is we'll just feel bad, and honestly you'll make less muscle. People like to pretend they're being productive when they eat that garbage food. but you'll make less muscle when you do that because your performance in the gym isn't going to be as good. When you've ate like, like this sugary, cancerous shit, you're going to be feeling like sickly when you're in the gym. You're not going to push anywhere near as hard as when you're eating these natural foods that make you feel better. So I want to give you a lesson here, or a bit of like sort of actionable advice. Only bulk and gain weight if you have the discipline to do it with clean foods and to keep a cap on the amount of weight that you gain. If you're someone who doesn't have much discipline, and if, for example, you gaining weight, like, the desire to gain weight is going to mean that you, for example, are thinking, you know what, I'm just going to eat dirty, I'm going to do a dirty bulk, then I would suggest, if you're someone who's not disciplined on the bulk, I would suggest don't even bulk at all. Just keep yourself at maintenance calories. Basically eat enough that you basically keep the same weight, but you're still training hard, so you'll still gain some muscle. What I don't want is that you basically get fat on this journey and you feel like shit and your skin's gotten worse and your physique's like not even nice. When you gain weight, you should be staying lean whilst with it. Like the highest body fat I get to when I gain weight is like 15-16%. Some people balloon up to like 22%. They've got a fat stomach and then they get depressed as fuck because they did this to appeal to the female gaze, to be attractive, and now they just feel like fat motherfuckers and it's just horrible. And they do these massive weight fluctuations, whatever. I really don't recommend that. If you don't have the discipline to eat clean on a bulk, just don't even bulk. Just stay like basically like maintain your weight, still go into the gym hard. If you've got the discipline to bulk, you can make more muscle that way, but you've got to have a lot of discipline in your diet to avoid the shit food and not get into that thinking, which is like, I've got to gain weight, so if I just eat all this rubbish food, these snacks and whatever, then that's a productive thing. If you can avoid that bullshit, stay in a calorie surplus for as long as you possibly can, and you'll just find that your performance in the gym will just be better. The weight will fly up, the reps, you'll be hitting those 15 rep sets, and you'll just be making so much more progress.